This is $300. We're gonna be turning this into $5,000. And I'm gonna be doing this with the most rewarding side hustle that I know. Buying, fixing, selling, and reinvesting outboard motors. All I need is my tools and Facebook Marketplace. I found this motor that instantly caught my attention. We're driving to go get this motor and we're almost there. So I hopped out of the truck and the first thing I wanted to check whether the motor was locked up or not. After making sure it wasn't, I checked out the motor a little more, made him a deal, and took it home. All right, so we just picked up the engine from the gentleman and I think we got ourselves a great deal. It looks a little rough, but I'm pretty sure we can get it running by the end of this day. And after Jack inspected the motor and gave us the okay, this is what we got. This is a 2016 Mercury 4-stroke outboard motor that I picked up for only $250. Well, at least now we know is a 15 horsepower. Now we're gonna check essential things that all 4-stroke and actually any internal combustion engine needs to run. Now that we checked that it actually has spark, I did notice that there's a little tape on here, and when I took this off, well, that's a problem. I'll have to replace that. Let's quickly check the oil, and it looks like it's got clean oil. So that means we can try to start this thing. And usually you would like to check the compression as the next step, but of course I already bought it, so there's really no going back. I hear gas going into the carburetor. That's a good sign. So let's see if I got a great deal. And just like I figured, it wasn't gonna be that easy, but not to worry. I'm pretty sure the carburetor is dirty, and that's the reason why it doesn't run. And to verify that, it needs to be clean. After fighting with it a little bit, we finally got it up. Now, we're gonna take it all apart, clean it up, and put it back on the motor. Now that I cleaned the carburetor, I realized something. This carburetor was just way too clean. The jets weren't even clogged up. So my guess, now that looking at it, there's actually a gasket that's supposed to be in between the carburetor and the intake manifold, and it was missing. There's supposed to be a little paper gasket here. And I'm guessing they already cleaned the carburetor, the previous owner, and they forgot to put the gasket back on. So it had a vacuum leak, and that's why the engine wouldn't run. And that's probably why they sold it. I got one right here, and this is what it should look like. And the reason why I already have this was because, well, I love flipping outboards so much, and it's so rewarding that I've already done this in the past, and I have spare parts. Whenever you have a carburetor that bolts on an engine, you always have to have a gasket or an O-ring in between. You can never have metal on plastic directly or metal on metal, of course, because it won't seal. Before we put the fuel back on, I gotta replace this fitting because I noticed it's actually cracked. Even though it didn't leak, I also have another one of those too. And as you can see, this is the old one, and this little piece where fuel goes in is actually broken. And this is the new one. Now that we put everything back together, let's see if it'll fire up. Hey. Well, the motor seems like it's actually running, but it seems like it's not running perfectly. And before we start messing with tuning of the carburetor, I think we should replace this coil because I think the wires are shorting out on the engine. So this is the old coil, and I'm going to replace it with this brand used, new to the motor coil. And although it's slightly different because of the ground, but it works the same way, and it should work for this motor. So let's put it on. Now check that out. That looks a lot better than what it did before. Perfect. And as you can see, the motor is actually running decently, but I'm going to do something that'll make the motor run even better. That's pretty good. I would say that's good right there. If you forget how far out you turn that screw, the factory setting is usually screw it all the way in lightly and then screw it 2 to 2.5 turns out. And that's usually great. Now that we got the motor running really good, there's only one thing left to do, and that's give it a full detail. So of course we can put it for sale and maximize our profit. Now I'm going to use my
secret sauce.
before I put this motor for sale is I want to touch up some of the old damaged paint on the bottom of the motor with this spray paint right here. This paint is Mercury Quicksilver Phantom Black Enamel Spray Paint. And if you want to buy this spray paint, I have a link down below and you can get some for yourself. If you have any Mercury that's black, this should work for you. And now that we're finished with this motor, I'm going to list it for sale and see how much money we can actually get. We just listed the motor for $1,500. And since we spent just $290 buying it and fixing it, and now all we can do is wait until it sells. We finally did for $1,300, and that gives us a profit of around $1,010. Now this motor might look a little familiar, and that's because it is. And a ton of you have been leaving comments asking what happened to this motor, and I'm going to address that right now. In the last video, I actually picked this motor up with a boat for only $700. Right now, we're going to figure out all the other things that it needs and see how much money we can actually make from it. And since we sold the other motor for a decent profit, we're going to be taking that money and using it to fix this motor and subtract the $700 that we paid for this. And to give you an update where we last left this motor, I was trying to get this stuck steering rod out of the steering tube, which was so frozen that it took a couple of hours just to beat that thing out. But we finally got it out, and now the motor spins freely and there's no more steering shaft stuck in here. So the only thing we really have to do now is go over it, change the trim motor. By judging how rusty this trim motor is, I think it's time for a replacement. Best part about these 90 horsepower two-stroke Yamahas are they're very common and easy to fix. And you can actually find these very easily on Facebook Marketplace for very cheap. And usually the only issue they have are the carburetors are dirty or the trim motors go bad eventually. So they're great motors to flip. Now, if you want to take the trim motor off, the best thing to do is first take a long screwdriver like this, and you'll find a little indication right here. On most motors, it'll look the same, and it's a little hole to give you access to the hydraulic trim assembly, so you can turn it and loosen the valve, which will allow this bracket to move. Because we can't move it since the trim motor is bad, we have to do that to get access to it. One thing you want to remember when you're working on a trim assembly and you're trying to loosen the bypass valve on a trim unit is you want to use a good flat-bladed screwdriver that's not all rounded off, because you really don't want to mess up that screw, because you're going to be in a lot of trouble trying to get it loosened. Now that we got the bracket separated from the actual midsection, what we're going to do is take these 10mm bolts off so we can take this trim motor off, which is really corroded. I like Yamaha a lot because the trim and tilt wires are always color labeled, making reassembly simple. And as you can see, the relay has a green and blue dot for easy guidance. There we go. And as you can see, this is the trim motor right here, and it's definitely seen better days. I mean, it's so rusty that there's chunks falling off of it. It's not what you want to see from your trim motor. And as soon as I pulled this thing off, the oil smelled absolutely disgusting. It's a mix of old sweaty socks and I don't know what else, but it just really stinks. And since we lost all that fluid taking the motor off, we're gonna have to replace it with some hydraulic oil, or you can use power trim and tilt fluid, which Yamaha recommends. And you can usually access the fluid from the reservoir on most trim units, which is usually a bolt like this or a screw, and that's where you add it. And usually you have to add it with the trim all the way up. I have the trim fluid in this bottle, and this is usually how I put trim fluid in power trim and tilt units. So what we're going to do is just add the fluid until it starts to come out, and that'll mean that it's full. Yep. And there we go, it's starting to come out. Oh, that means that we're full. So we're going to quickly put the drain plug back in. Now we're going to test it and verify that it actually works correctly. There we go. Nice. It looks like it's working good to me. As you can see, something as simple as changing a $60 motor and adding a couple dollars worth of hydraulic fluid solved a problem that probably someone would charge you over $1,000 to fix on your motor. I wanted to prove to you how easy it is to do and actually that you can do it at home. Now we're going to put the insulating boot over the wire to prevent any short circuits from happening. And the final thing we got to do to this engine before we start it is I want to do a compression test cold and make sure that the compression is good, so when we sell this engine we know we're selling a good engine to somebody else. Sounds about right. So now that we checked the compression and saw that all the cylinders were at least at 100 psi and they were pretty even, that's the main thing you want to look for, we should be good to go. And I'm pretty sure that this engine will be a nice, reliable engine for someone in the future. And the reason compression is so important for an engine is that tells you the life and the condition of the engine. And this is how one of the most reliable two-stroke engines ever made should start. Like that. And we're just double checking that the trim still works, which is working pretty good. Now we're going to clean it with my secret sauce to make sure that it's ready for sale. So we're going to take a couple photos and list it for sale and see how much money we can actually get from this thing. Right after putting the motor up for sale, my inbox blew up with messages, but one caught my eye. And when I saw it was from somebody who watches the channel, of course, I had to sell it to him, and I gave him a great deal. So how did you find this motor?
Well, I found the motor on Marketplace this morning, and I recognized this 90 from the really first video of the Key Largo.
Okay.
And I decided to give it a shot. So this is perfect. This is what I'm looking for. I'm rebuilding a small boat right now for my son, and
okay.
This will be perfect for us.
What boat are you rebuilding?
It's a Boston Whaler.
Oh,
it's
okay.
a 15-footer.
It's a perfect motor for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be super nice to put this thing on the back of the
pretty
whaler.
fast actually with
Yeah,
that.
it's gonna be fast.
It's
Fast
cool.
and fun.
Cool, perfect.
Yeah.
We sold the motor for a total of $1,600, and after expenses, that's $1,540 in profit. This is the motor I just scored. But before we get into it, let me give you a little backstory on how we got it. I was scrolling through Marketplace when I found this completely destroyed boat, but there was something that caught my eye. I knew right away I had to buy it. The original asking price was only $1,200, but I had to negotiate him down for $900. So we had to figure a way to load the engine onto my truck. We had to get very creative. And the greatest part about this deal was after I brought the boat home, I managed to sell the boat for $200. Now that we have the motor back in the garage, we're going to check out and see what's going on with it, because I have no idea the history or any issues that this motor might have. So now looking at the motor, I hooked up some power, we tried to start it, and it did nothing. So my guess is it's something electrical, because I don't hear anything turning on or whirring. And that's why you never want to overlook the simplest thing, and you always want to do the process elimination to figure out your issue. So we got power to the motor, but I still don't hear the fuel pump when I turn the key. So I'm guessing there's something still wrong with the fuel pump. So we should probably take this off and have a look inside the fuel pump and see what's going on. So now that we've finished changing the fuel pump and the motor looks like it's ready to go, let's try to start it for the first time. While hearing the engine run, I noticed it was making a weird noise, and I want to talk about something that will kill this engine very quickly if you don't replace this. This is the balancer assembly, and it's making a whining noise, which means it's probably going bad. And if you don't replace it soon enough, it'll completely destroy this engine. So we got to look for a new one, and let's see how much they cost. And after finding out that the balancer is $435, I'm going to want to look around on Facebook Marketplace and see if I can find one used. I actually ended up scoring a great deal on this used balancer for the engine. Got it for only $175. Here we go. All right. And as you can see, the old one is actually really hard to turn. But if you look at the new one, it turns super easy. And that's the issue that happens with the old one. These gears swell up, and since they're plastic, it'll get hot and it'll melt. And then of course, all this melted plastic, which I'll show a picture on screen, how it looks like when it goes bad, will destroy your engine. And since not many people get to look inside of a 4-stroke engine, this is the crankshaft right here, and you actually have your connecting rods down here that attach to the pistons and to the crank. Now that we put the new gasket sealer on the new balancer assembly, we're going to go ahead and install it. And we got to be very careful. Now we got to torque all the bolts down in the correct sequence. So we're going to set the torque wrench to 23 foot-pounds as Yamaha recommends and torque all the bolts. And there we go. Now all the bolts are torqued down. Since we had to remove this old fuel filter, I went ahead and spent another 20 bucks and bought ourselves a new one. So we're going to install that right now. Now that we finished installing the balancer, let's try to start it up. So the motor's running, but I don't know if you can hear it. That tensioner right there is making a ton of noise. After listening to the motor with the new balancer, you can hear that it's completely silent. But we have another noise now that we have to deal with, and that's this tensioner. I didn't realize it before because this was making so much noise that you couldn't hear the noise coming from here. But now hearing it, the bearing is definitely bad in this tensioner, which is very important because if that fails, the timing belt would jump off and it would destroy the whole engine. So I had a real problem trying to find that tensioner. Come to find out, that tensioner was almost $600 for just that one tensioner. And obviously, I don't want to spend $600 on a motor that I only paid $900 for. So after looking around, I found this one on eBay, which actually is for a newer model Yamaha 150. So we're going to see if this one will actually work because this one was only $80. So before we try to take this tensioner off, you always want to put the engine on its correct timing marks. So we're going to do that, and we're going to turn the engine to top dead center. And on the Yamaha 150, the timing marks should be on the camshaft. As you see right here, there's one here, and there's one right here. And they should align together right here. And as you can see, right about there. That's where they should line up. So we should be at top dead center and timed on both camshafts. And as you see, now there's no tension on the belt. And as you can hear, this is extremely bad. So it's a good thing that we replace this tensioner before it fails completely and trashes our engine entirely. Here, this is the new one, and it makes no noise at all. And because we're trying to save money, I'm going to weld the stock bracket so I don't have to buy a new one. Just like that, we got a working tensioner. So now that the engine runs good, it's ready to sell. Oh wow, it looks like I got a buyer already. Hello? You're interested in the motor? You want to come right now? You have cash in hand? Well, I guess we got a buyer already. And after getting off that phone call, it looks like the buyer showed up and he's right here. Wow, this is a nice looking engine. Wow, this would be such a nice motor for my new boat project. I mean, it would work great and it's pretty affordable. I mean, you're only asking $4,500. Well, I really like the motor and I think I could pay $4,200 for it. So if you agree, here's the money. Yeah, sure, I can do $4,200. I mean, that's not too bad. Hey, wait a minute, this is only $4. And if you didn't realize, I basically just sold the motor to myself. Now, the reason why I did that is because I'm gonna be using this motor in another project coming up on the next video. And I figured that it still counts as if I sold it. And if you think that's cheating, well, you can look at Facebook Marketplace and see that these motors routinely go for around $4,000 to $5,000 on the used market. So technically, we still completed the check. Here's the final breakdown. We spent a total of $1,290 fixing the Yamaha 150, and we sold it for $4,200, a profit of $2,950. Add in the $1,850 residual, and we hit a grand total of $4,800. If you like this video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and make sure you stay tuned for the next flip.